Hey, so the decades-old question is, do I try to hit the ball way down there with a lot of distance, or do I just go for accuracy and try to keep it down the middle? Well, I believe you can have both. Right after this, I'm going to show you a method of releasing the club head that I think is going to give you both distance and accuracy. So keep watching. Hey, this is Steve from HitItLonger.com. Hey, when the video is over, don't forget to pick up your free copy of my ebook, 50 Tips for Your Longest Drives Ever. I've left a link down below. I think it's going to help you get some additional yards onto your drives. Hey, so for those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, you know that my mentor was Mike Austin. If you haven't heard of Mike Austin, great swing to check out. There's lots of videos on YouTube with him. You can take a look at the couple of swings I'm putting up here in the corner. Mike was known best for his 515-yard drive in the 1974 National Senior Open. Mike was a big hitter, big guy, very strong, extremely fast club head speed. But what most people don't know about him is that he was also very straight, very consistent hitter of the ball. If he could have putted half decent, I think he would have been extremely famous. But during his playing career and his long driving career, which really lasted well into his late 70s until he had a stroke that left him partially paralyzed. But between 1984 and 1988, when he was well into his 70s, he was still averaging 310 yards per drive off the tee in exhibitions and long drive competitions. And that was with, you know, a persimmon headed driver and a steel shaft back then, different golf ball. So he was really smashing it even into you know, his late 70s, and even into his 80s with one arm, he could still crack a pretty long ball too. But he was doing things a little bit differently. He was releasing the club head and making wrist and forearm actions that maybe you haven't seen before or haven't considered before. I'd like to show you how he was doing this in order to hit the ball long and straight. All right, so I brought in my trusty hula hoop again here to kind of demonstrate for you the purpose or the reason for what we're doing is, you know, the best case scenario for hitting the ball long and straight would require an action through the impact zone with the wrists and forearms that, number one, would freely propel the club around the arc or the circle, as crudely represented today by this hula hoop. So it would propel the club along the arc, and at the same time it would keep the club face square to that arc, so it would have the least amount of club face rotation relative to the target line. It would look something like this. Now imagine if I could take this club face and cut out, hollow out a circle the size of this hula hoop and then thread the hula hoop through it. You'd get a really idea for, as Mike said, keeping the club face square to the points on the compass throughout the swing. Again, that would look something like this. The club head would come in this way and exit this way. And with that extremely low rate of face closure, you'd probably have your best chance of keeping the ball down the middle all day. And the way he was doing it, you're also going to get power. Let me show you from another angle. Let's set it up to this ball here. And look at the action that would be required to keep the club face square to square. You see what that looks like there? It would come down looking like this, square up, and then after impact it would look something like this. So the club face would stay square to the arc even into the follow through. Let me show you one more angle coming towards you. Again, that club face is square to the arc here, coming down square at impact, then you see how the exit, it stays square along the arc. So just like this. So in order to propel that square-to-square club face to a super high speed and therefore hit the ball a long way, we're going to need to introduce an action with our wrist that I think a lot of you may not have considered before, and that is the flapping back and forth of the two wrists. Now as I do this from here, and notice I've got at the beginning of the impact zone, I've got my left wrist in a slightly bowed position, and that was really one of my secrets to bringing it square to square. As you can see in the picture up here, his wrist in the hitting zone has moved into a slightly bowed position, real similar to Hogan. If you could slow down Hogan's video and catch it in those old black and white, you know, more crude videos than we have today, sometimes you can pick up that wrist looking like that. So, like this. But see, Mike got this wrist here, not through trying to place it or control it, but what Mike used to do, and it's so funny that his secret is right here in doing this, that when you would meet him, he would show you this flapping action here like you'd be cracking a towel, and he would do this right into your chest. And you thought he was going to break your ribs or something. It was a little bit scary because he was a very big, powerful guy and had a real mean streak too. So you can see that I'm letting my wrist whip faster than the camera can even pick up. Simply by letting it go free and respond to the action of my forearm pulling back. And you can see how that's making my wrist whip almost kind of like a bullwhip action. I'm not using any muscles to do this. Instead, it's responding, and it's just swinging free more at the ligaments, and there's not actually a muscle action. My wrist is in complete relaxation as it does this. So now if you apply this down here, you see from here, and we would come out this way. So I know what you're going to say at home, some of you. You're going to say, oh, that's a flip. That's really flippy. You say, I don't call that a flip, I call that a flap. And you think you're not going to be able to get compression on your irons or get a forward lean on your irons. But that's not true when you blend it with the pivot in the right sequence. Now I do this action. See, right at impact, I'm still going to have this forward leaning shaft, a nice descending strike, and then I'm going to flap it through like that. Let me show you from this angle, just the left arm. This is square to the arc here. It might look close to you here, but it's actually not. This would be open 30 degrees. That's square to the arc. Now, slightly bowed wrist. Now watch as my arm bone must turn to square it up and keep propelling it. Hit the ball square. Continue to flap the left wrist into dorsiflexion, and that'll bring me all the way to here. Show you with two hands now. In the hitting zone here. Turning the left arm bone, straightening out the right wrist. Club is square to the arc. Striking forward lean on the shaft, compressing it. Now flapping, keeping the club face moving around the arc, and square to the arc this way. Let me show you from the face on. I want you to see that we can do square to square and have the forearms cross over. So it's a must. It has to be done. Out in front, I will have started my pivot already. Here we go, square to square. Notice the logo on my glove turning 90 degrees as I flap. There's my forward lean on the club. I can hit down on this, compress it, get the right distance and trajectory, flapping through to here. Notice that by the time I get here, The right forearm has completely extended and crossed over the folding left. On my channel, I've gotten a lot of comments over time saying you shouldn't do that. Well, everybody does that. You can't avoid it. And I wanted to show you how you can make the club face go square to square and still cross the forearms over. This is going to give you your blend of distance and accuracy. This is the way Mike was doing it during his playing career, why he's able to hit the ball so far and yet keep it straight. So let me give it a couple tries. We'll do a little slow-mo breakdown of the swing, and hopefully I'll do it just like Mike did. All right, so I got a shot up here on the screen. Pretty strong shot. I'm using an 8-iron here. I'm at 95 miles an hour of club speed. I've got a path of 0.0, so very, very straight. And I've got a carry distance of 178 on an 8-iron. So we're talking about a really, really strong shot with an 8-iron. It did finish 11 feet to the right, so I will take that any day at that distance. So the biggest concern I always hear about trying to use this method is that you're going to come down and hit the ball fat, or, you know, from some people trying to flap this, well, that's really like flipping and you want to hold this angle. Well, it's not a static angle you're trying to hold through the impact zone. It's always changing and dynamic this way. But as your weight shifts over to the left foot and you're turning, you will catch a forward divot this way. And the flapping of the wrists is going to help you pick up just an absolute ton of extra club head speed. And then there are some critics who say that it's impossible to hit the ball straight if you're crossing your forearms over. It's sometimes known as the roller method. So just remember, watch this demonstration on the club head going through impact, square to square. My left arm bone is rolling, and yet I cannot hook this ball because the toe of the club never passes the heel relative to the arc. Cannot hook the ball this way when you're doing it like this. Hey, I hope you'll give this a try. I think it's going to give you benefit in terms of getting a little extra distance while not sacrificing any accuracy. Hey, thanks again for watching. Thanks to Golf Development Center in Moore Park, California for hosting us today. We really appreciate you watching all my videos on this channel, and I hope you'll subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment down below, and hey, if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Stay well.